I think it's really communicating with your colleagues in that sense, or my colleagues are in that sense. So like, let's say
And honestly, it does help when you are public about it, right? That means everyone already know Stanley got 3 jobs, or maybe got 4 coming, right?
Correct.
So it's okay lah, right? Then if it's not a hard deadline, they will not force you on
Correct.
it, right? Welcome back to Rise and Shine. I'm your host Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut.
And I'm Dawn, SG Budget Babe. So you've heard about unemployment and you've heard about underemployment. Yeah. But have you ever heard of overemployment? If you're not, don't worry, it's our first time as well.
Yeah. I never, when the thing came on my table for clearance, right? On this, I was like, who is willing to work so many jobs? Right? Like, sweet, so no life. This person no life.
When I first heard the pitch, I was like, you're kidding me, right? Got such thing, man?
Like, we're going with this person, so yeah.
Yeah, so this is a very exciting episode. We're gonna dive into our guest who is overemployed, and we'll explain why in a short bit. But before we jump into things, we'll let him introduce himself. Stanley?
Hi guys, I'm Stanley. So I'm actually a proud employee of 3 marketing agencies in different capacities. So one of them is integrated marketing agency, Seconds Media, and social media marketing agencies, Alto Global, as well as a influencer UGC marketing agency called Social Jet. So I'll share more about why I'm overemployed in a bit. So yes.
So Stanley was just telling us that this actually started from his early days.
Yeah.
Before he became overemployed in 3 to 4 roles full time, he used to be studying in poly and holding a full-time job at the same time. So you've heard of multi-hyphenates and overachievers.
Crazy.
I think this one goes beyond. There's no definition.
Crazy.
Okay? He's creating a new niche of his own. But yeah, we'd love to find out. So Stanley, how do you feel about overemployment? This is so rare. Like, what made
I
you
don't even
do
want
it?
to feel about this. I was like, and everybody knows you. Like it was first through Chris, right, our writing lead, right? So he writes for us, and then after that, when he went to the producer also know him. I was like, everyone knows you. So tell me more. Like, how do you end up in this thing?
So I think I've been in this line of work for quite a bit of time. So I started since I was like 16 and a half. And when I was working as a weekend job, it became a full-time job. And after that, I went back to school. And when I went back to school, I also decided to take full-time job while I was having a full-time study. I guess that's how I started. But when I was like in 22, 23 years old, I was working just one full-time job after I left poly. So I didn't go and start a new business.
Clarify.
Yes. So it's only until the recent 5 years back that I started to become overemployed. So my first role, I became a partnership director with Seconds Media. A couple of months, about 1-2 months later, an influencer marketing agency back then asked me if I wanted to be an advisor with them because I have a lot of experience. Back then, I was about 7 years plus in the marketing industry. So right now, this is my 12th year, so minus 5, right? So about 7 years. The boss, the founder, was saying that, hey, maybe you could value add because you offer quite a lot of opinions and thoughts regarding...
Obert.
Yeah, like Obert, right?
It's
like
been
an
around.
Obert,
Yes.
So I was like, oh, that sounds really cool. So I went back to check with my bosses back then at Seconds Media, and they were like, I mean, if you find that it doesn't have a conflict with what you do and you're able to work around your time, sure. So I started off my overemployment journey, right, in a way. Legitimately, overemployed is when I had a full-time role as a partnership director, and I also took on a role as an advisor. So I didn't straight away jump into I'm going to be a director in another company, but it was more like advisor. So the time commitment at the start wasn't like intense. It got intense along the way, but not at the start. At the start, it was maybe 2-3 hours per day kind of thing. And then maybe if I pack that into 2 days, that's maybe about 6 to 8 hours for each day, right? And then another 3 days that I can do other things, technically.
And did your bosses never question your lesser commitment if you take on an extra role?
That's a really good question. So how the value proposition when was it? Because I'm a partnership director of Seconds Media. I'm still am the current partnership director of Seconds Media, right? And one role that I need to do is always establish new relationship with agencies as well, or fellow media space people, right? In terms of partnerships. So when I took on the extra role with Xtend, it was kind of synergistical, not really a conflict in a way that when Xtend needed maybe integrated marketing support, they could get Seconds Media to support.
So that's the koyo you sell to your boss lah.
I mean, it's always a win-win, and bosses value the win-win, and it was true, like, because during the tenure with X10, I only left this role with X10 after 5 years and 2 months, quite recently, because they got acquired and I didn't take up the acquisition offer. Okay, gossip for another time. Okay, so when during this period of time, they actually referred quite a lot of opportunities to Seconds Media. So in terms of business-wise, Seconds definitely benefited from this relationship as well. So it's truly a win-win.
And
so,
your bosses then not say like, oh, you want to do another role, then we drop your pay.
So the thing is that I wasn't super highly paid for my role. So like I was paid maybe about 4 digits, right? But it was like maybe like 3 each, 4 each.
Yeah, that was what I was about to say.
Yeah.
4 digit is a wide range.
4 digit can be 9K.
Yeah,
Okay. So my
Wow.
basic I took on was like a 3 each, 4 each, because Seconds back then was like a startup kind of opportunity. So I moved on from a full-fledged agency, right, making like about 5 digits to going back to from scratch, right? Because I believe that they have a growth opportunity and growth story. I mean, true enough, they did grow, and I did see higher salary along the way from the director fees that they paid me. Director fees is different from the full-time employment. It's a separate income. It's income that I declare, but don't get CPF for. Yeah, that's the sad part. Okay, so anyway, they didn't pay me less, but they just didn't pay me a lot. Back then.
But they didn't say to cut your pay after. They say, yeah, we give you a blessing for this second role, but in return, we cut your pay.
Actually, that's a really good question. I think I didn't get that pay cut, but perhaps the drawback was that I didn't get a super high increment year on year.
That makes sense.
I guess it's a sort of trade-off, right? So I don't negotiate with the boss like, okay, can you give me a 30% increment? Because if I work in a normal role, I'll typically look at the financial chart, but I contribute so much revenue. But in a way, it's a win-win, right? They don't need to pay me like super high increments year on year, but at the very least, they pay me like a slight increment, plus I'll still get my bonuses, right? So that's the growth opportunity.
I think this is really interesting because most employers, especially very Asian mindset kind, it's a very common thing we hear, right? Whereby if people want to pursue something else, then for the employers to give them the blessing, first of all, getting the blessing may not even come. So that was very enlightening hearing you talk about that story. But then the second part also, even if you get your boss's blessing, it may come at a price or condition.
Right.
But you didn't get that. Yours was just make sure there's no conflict.
The boss back then is a starter, not a lot of ability to negotiate.
That's
an
negotiating
important context.
power.
I think
lah.
because I have negotiating power, I think this is a very good point because I came on board that company with 7 years of experience. I mean, back then, right? So I also offer a lot of valuable support. Like, because Seconds back then, aside from doing integrated, we also did a bit of China piece, and I own a lot of China networks, right? So I think in terms of market, being valuable in the market back then, I was valuable. I mean, I'm valuable now as well, but like back then, I was already considered valuable, right? So they got me at a steal already. So I guess plus it's a win-win, so it's not too bad. And then later on, the third employment came from the sister agency of Seconds, in fact, because the bosses actually own another agency, which is called Alto Global.
So the boss also overemployment lah.
Yeah. But the bosses, because they're like founders, so basically they was like, okay, since you are like managing like Seconds work and you are also able to do extend stuff, right? So perhaps you could juggle well with more portfolio, right? So
Is it true?
Well, I could. Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Money is good. Okay, so but for Alto side, I basically came in to solve certain problems. So back then, the problem I solved was more team-related problems, like more developmental issues. So it was a different problem to solve. So on Extend, I solve more strategy. And then for Second, I do more day-to-day partnership-related matters. And then for Alto, I was roped in to settle developmental issues, right? So it was very synergistical. So I was like, okay, it sounds like really fun and I could do it. Right. So then I was like, okay, yay, sign me up. For me, I never shy away from like doing extra work.
As long as you get paid lah.
As long as I get paid, yes. I always like to joke with people who's hiring me, let's say even freelance, right? Because I do some freelance gigs, but freelance...
On top of these?
Yeah.
So this is overemployment plus.
Plus.
Okay, so
it's an XL size overemployment. That's too much.
So how do I define freelance, right? It's basically if I can do it in my night time, or if I can do it like weekend with that 2-3 hours. I don't need to actually keep talking to them. I can do it. So like I do still take on some freelance, but it has to be the non-committed hours. But if they require like my daytime, like 10 to 10 or like normal 9 to 6 kind of role, then
you
I
can't
won't be able to take out any freelance.
Because you already split with 3, how to split further?
That
Right?
was quite tiring, to be honest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what are your working hours like?
So in terms of working hours right now, I think very thankful to COVID, because after COVID, all the agencies that I work with progressively had either a hybrid model or they had a remote model. So and of course, I negotiated for a remote model.
Of course.
Yeah. So
cannot move around 3 agencies.
yeah, it's a bit hard to move the locations. Which was honestly an issue for me before COVID. Okay, but there's some thankful part about it. So back then, Seconds Media and Alto, they were both in Chinatown. And then like when I was in Extend, we also moved to Chinatown like shortly after. Very convenient. And then when COVID happened, it was full remote. So even better.
How do you manage that pre-COVID? Like, even if it's 3 offices in Chinatown, but there's still 3 different locations, right? So how do you do it?
Because it's based on timing. I'm not required to like constantly be talking to, let's say for Alto, I'm talking about team development. I don't need to constantly be talking to them, alright? I need to plan like what is their development process like and what's the curriculum, literally the curriculum that I'll be talking to them about, or like let's say client relationship issues, or perhaps managing team, different topics. I don't need to constantly be there, right? So that's a good thing.
Yeah, I think you do realize that he's running different scopes in different groups. Right?
Yeah,
Like, it's not. There's no direct overlap. It's not like sales, all 3 sales.
Correct.
Right?
So
That's
it's
crazy.
deconflicting myself.
Yes. Okay. So maybe give us some context. How much are you paid? You say money is very good, right? So where is
well, I would say
the first one not so good lah. That's why you take a second one. Then take a second one high already. Might as well take a third one.
on average it's like 5 digits, 5 digits, but it's a low side. 5 digits for basic.
Cumulatively.
Yeah, cumulative.
Okay.
Yeah, but okay, so one thing I request for now, like moving into like now being so clear about how overemployment actually works, right? For me personally, is that to qualify as my full-time, it has to be paying me a CPF. And it has to be a scope that is committed for
extended period.
extended period of time, which is full-time essentially, right? So these are the 2 things. If it's freelance, right, there's no CPF. So that honestly is, to me, is not really employment.
So your IRA tax filing during this season shows all 3 companies with
Yes,
the CPF
all
thing come out.
4 companies back then
Yeah.
So last year, I also joined a new company as an advisor, right?
So the same model. Guy is very familiar with this trace. How about we try one more? Right?
Yes, exactly. That's pretty much okay, but it's more like synergy. So back then, SocialJet was launching like UGC department. So although I was already in Extend, which is an influencer marketing agency, but they don't exactly do UGC, and then UGC is really up and coming thing. So I saw a lot of potential in that space. But right now, I'm actually having 3 full-times technically, because I left Extend, and then SocialJet, I converted my role to do not just UGC, but also influencer marketing, because they're also influencer marketing agency at a core, right? So I was like, okay, since I'm no longer going to take the Extend offer, then I move to SocialJet. But now I'm in the middle of like discussing for the 4th role, which if this video is out, I should be in the 4th row already. Yeah, which is like a magazine publication kind of.
Tell us a little bit more about the timing. Like, so when people think of full time, literally they think 9 to 6 times 5 days a week, but you're having 3 or 4. How does that work?
A full time works right now is that, okay, so post-COVID, let's talk about post-COVID first. So post-COVID became really easy for me because it was full remote technically, or like hybrid lah. Hybrid to me is equivalent to full remote because I could negotiate. Yeah, so it's really based on schedule. Like, so for example, let's say 2 to 4, I'm having a meeting with SocialJets, let's say clients or like programs or vendors. Then basically I won't be able to do other things within these 2 to 4, right? So then after that, maybe 4 to 6, I'll be like meeting second stakeholders or like certain partners, talk about work. And maybe like in the evening, I could be meeting like Alto's clients. Let's say a shopping mall has an activation. Alto does a lot of shopping mall projects. So,
Stanley, 我听了我都要 puke blood. And I was like, oh my goodness, how do you keep up with this? Okay,
Yes.
but time aside, right?
Yes.
Essentially, what you're saying is your time is very stacked out now, right? You
yeah,
just
so
gotta be
basically
very
like
organized.
back-to-back things.
Yeah, back to back. It's very intense, right? But
Yes.
but at your level, it's not just about back-to-back meetings, right? It's
Correct.
a lot about strategy. It's a lot about
It's
thinking.
actually a lot of planning time. So
Yeah, so
the
planning.
real work is usually done like maybe like after wee hours.
Yeah.
Like maybe after I'm done with my wife, in terms of like, you know, like when she's back, we chat, we eat dinner and stuff. Then maybe like
Do the
around,
magic.
yeah.
and,
Then around 11 p.m. to around like maybe 1 is where I think of like the strategy for next week, the month, the quarter, and stuff like that. So, and I would say it's a lot of stakeholder management at my level.
It is. It
Yeah,
is.
so-
It is. So what about the bandwidth? Like, where do you find all these bandwidth?
Bandwidth as in energy bandwidth or
Yeah.
like time
Thinking
bandwidth?
bandwidth, right? Like it's
Wow.
like time is one thing, right? Like
Yes.
back-to-back meeting is one thing. At the
Yes.
end of the day, back-to-back meeting, go back home, still makan, entertain the partner, and then
Yeah.
after that still must think. Next morning come in, so it's like
Yeah,
know,
like where's your downtime?
Yeah,
Where's
where's your
your
downtime?
Where's the
How-
next sleep
how
and
you gonna-
chill or
Oh,
whatever
maybe
it
weekends.
is?
Yeah.
Weekends is like a downtime for me.
no, but weekend you freelance, what? You don't say that.
Yeah, no, but freelance I don't consider as work.
Okay,
So,
okay.
if I don't consider it as work, meaning it's like quite chill. So it has to be. So for example, I have one of my recent freelance cases like to help him edit stuff,
Mm.
right? So
You also go and edit.
yeah, I also do video content as well.
Oh
Yeah.
my.
Okay, so when I take on freelance, I take on this to improve my own personal craft as well because at the end of
Okay,
the day,
fair. I hear
yeah,
you.
it cannot be like I lead an agency in different capacity, but I
Mm.
don't have the skill set. Okay, I mean there are a lot of leaders that don't have skill set. Don't get me wrong. They don't edit. They don't know the time taken. They don't really know the process, or they don't do KOL work, for example. And they don't really know the value of it. So therefore, they don't sell properly sometimes also. I mean, to me because I'll do this freelance stuff, right? I know the value of the work.
Mm,
So therefore, like I can tell clients or tell stakeholders that if this is don't make sense, then why do it in the first place?
okay.
Yeah, sort of
okay.
situation. Yeah,
Fair. Do
Yeah.
you have any other friends that are like that? Like maybe it's in a different,
like overemployment.
yeah, overemployed. That is maybe in a slightly different scenario because agency work. I get it, right? That
Yes.
is a okay. So the beauty of agency work is
Yes.
it tends to be very KPI driven,
Yes.
so it's very target driven. It's not about the amount of time, right?
Yep.
Like you can go and yum chai 1%, you close a big deal, right?
Correct.
Sector, you hit your KPI, it's done, right?
It's true
So-
though. It's true.
Right. So
Yes.
so some of these works are more, it's very KPI driven. But what about other industries?
I would say like one
any
of my
others crazy people like you?
one of my acquaintance or friend, like he used to run a bar and he also works full time in a finance. It's also pretty intense actually.
Mm.
And now he's doing his full time and he's starting a new thing like this networking program thing. It's sort of like similar, I guess. And I know a lot of my freelancers who take on like, but to me, okay, freelance if you don't pay yourself CPF, I don't really consider it as like a job per se. But
okay.
that's just my take, my hot take on it.
Okay.
Like freelance, you must still pay yourself CPF to consider it as a full. So I would say there are multiple gig economy people. There's a lot
yeah, fair,
but-
fair.
like overemployment and tell their employer. Maybe not a lot. Maybe not. A lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know of any. Except
Yeah.
you.
But then maybe give us a little bit of color around the
Yeah.
ideology. Why you
Right.
why you think like that? Why you do? Because a lot of people generally are very annoyed with holding a job, right?
Yeah.
Or like very sian of work, right?
That's true.
Like, but you sound super excited, You sound like yeah, I'm here to work, So while
Yeah.
I look like I have I'm done here. I need to go
You're like
already.
GTFO.
Right, yeah, I'm done, right? So give us your thought around this ideology. Why you work so much? And so much is a moral judgment from me, right?
Yeah,
so
that's true,
yes,
true.
please go
I
for
mean,
it.
it's relative. I would say
Mm,
like for me, I feel like it's not like a lot because
Mm.
back then working one full time, like in other companies, other agencies, the hours or like when I was working in a tech company, that one role itself was like 12, 14 hours or 15 hours,
Mm.
right? So actually my current rigor is a lot more manageable. It's like a 9 to 6 or 9 or at most sometimes you work overtime, but that's normal for every job. Like overtime is part of it. Like sometimes you work weekends, sometimes you have crunch time, but that's part of every industry. Let's say you're working in accounting, you're working in finance, that's always like crunch time as well.
It's sad lah, but
Yeah.
it's what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, but of course there is also the new philosophy whereby they want work-life harmony, right? Because I feel like it's all terms, work-life balance, work-life harmony.
Yes,
They're
yes,
all
yes.
terms. I feel like at the end of the day it's what you're comfortable with. And I'm comfortable with the idea of working because at the end of the day, once you achieve your outcome, and you help the company to achieve results, it's based on a framework they agree on and they pay you a certain amount of money on time and on the schedule. All right, in bad economy, in good economy, they pay you, right? It's just that the amount they pay you might differ based on bonus systems, but you still get paid. So I think that's one that consistent. And as I age as well, because I have a home to finance and I have a life to finance my wife, for example, right? So maybe you have kids in the future. All these require you to have very fixed
Yeah.
incomes. I would
I
say
hear you.
income
I
streams.
hear you. Yeah.
And I think jobs gives you that level of security.
Yeah.
So I was talking to Chris as well on this topic. So and Chris like, would you prefer one job that pays you like a lot more
Yeah,
money?
Exactly,
That
that
was
was
my
the
question.
question I was about to ask.
Yeah.
But before you go there, I just want to say, right, a lot of
Yes.
people say, oh yeah, I really hate my job and start a business, right? Then my mantra is, if you hate your job, change the job. If you start a business, you hate yourself. Okay,
Yeah.
that's a
Or
that's
you
a-
hate your clients.
yeah, that's a different discussion. But yes, please, yeah, exactly. I mean, we're all aligned, right? Like you do 3 jobs, okay, you net about 10 plus thousand,
Yeah.
low 5 figure. That's what
Yes.
you said, right?
Yes.
You could, if you can operate so many departments, you could easily package it and sell
Into
back to
one
a
role.
tech company, right? Or
Yes.
a finance company, be a SVP somewhere, right? And then you can do 15,000 and
Probably
Kim
can do
San,
more,
yeah,
yeah.
even more, right? Relax
Yeah.
down there. Like, why don't you do that?
One single role. I'm actually open to the idea of like maybe $25,000 or $30,000. But I know that this amount that
It's
they pay you,
hard to
right,
come.
is first of all hard to come. But
Mm.
second of all, you will be the first to go also.
Yeah.
In economic recession, which happens very frequently these days, like economic downturns. Like you see like a lot of big tech companies, they lay off. Even Google is laying off people, right?
Mm.
So I would say that I will be the first few to be laid off if let's say in down economic situations.
I
So,
mean, may or may not be lah. To be,
it
but
depends on value.
yeah, depends on how a company is
Yes.
evaluating. Sometimes they close the whole department,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes
Or they migrate the whole department to somewhere else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or like you want to
Mm.
merge a few department, then
Correct.
okay, you're the department here, right? Okay,
Yeah.
bye. Right. So there is a situation like that,
Correct.
right? So it
Or
really
you
depends.
have to take on more and more things for
Yeah.
the same amount of pay. So
Yeah.
one thing I saw a lot of people who lead organizations is that their department constantly like maybe after 2 quarters they're like, to make it more profitable, let's merge it, right?
Yeah,
So they
yeah,
merge it, they have a bigger title, but their pay is
Yeah.
their pay is still similar.
It's true. I have met many people.
Yeah. So now they don't hold. Actually, they take one title, but they actually do 4 different things as well.
Yeah.
So technically, that is also employment.
Yeah,
Just in a very hidden.
Everything under my shop, right. This
Yeah.
line very,
Yeah.
very,
Yeah.
It's like, hi, everything also become under my shop, right? This thing also become my shop, very annoying.
Yeah. So I would say, in my current work, at least, like it has happened, right? Like for XN, they got acquired, and then I didn't take up the acquisition offer because I didn't take it up. I technically lost a job, technically, right? But because I was still rightfully employed in other roles, right, I could still like basically just increase the output of work in one particular company and get paid more. Yeah. So that's exactly what I did. So instead of being just an advisor with a SocialJet, for example, I asked them if they want to upgrade their role with me. Right. So that is like a higher amount of commitment. They pay me more with CPF. And that's basically what we're gonna do, right? So, and while on the meantime, I try to find the project that I want to do for the 4th thing. Because now I know I can do 4 things, right?
Yeah.
So I must figure out the gap.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying Wise and Shine so far. I'm your host Reggie, aka your chief financial coconut, and for us to continue to do this show so that you become a tad bit wiser every week, you gotta like, share, subscribe, help us beat the algorithm. But even more importantly, if you can, comment in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts and also some questions that you would love us to answer. Yep, now back to the show.
This is too
Have you
much.
ever considered like taking a break then? Because it really
Yeah.
sounds very burnt
Before
out.
we go there, I just wanted to add one thing on that, right?
Yes.
Because recently there was we have one other guest. His name is Ashok, right? He's ex GIC. Okay, so he did tell the GIC manager, right, like his boss, lah, okay, that every year I want 1 extra month of unpaid holiday. You don't need to pay me, right? And you want me to hentak kaki is also okay, right? So and in that extent of that discussion, right, he essentially taken in a situation where he is forever underpaid for the role that he does, right? Because the increments is slower, there's no progression, he stays on that role for longer than everybody, right? So eventually when crunch time comes, right, he will not be the one that's right, because he derived the most value for a cheap price relative to everybody else on the team.
Yes.
I mean, of course, it's a story that he tells himself, but I was like, there is some validity in this thought process, right? Everyone in your same level, they're paid 30, but you're paid 20 because 10 years ago you made a decision, you tell your boss, I just want more break time. Don't need to give me so much, right? And then during bad times, you're forever there, right? So that is something we're not advocating that thought, yeah. But I think it does tie into a little bit of what you've discussed. Like sometimes if you're paid a lot, yes, well and good when times are good, right? When times are not so good, it's a bit problematic. So you chose the modular method rather than trying.
I think it's more
top.
stable that way. Like in terms of stability wise, I feel like from a perception.
Interesting. Yeah. Maybe we're here to listen to your viewpoint, right? Okay.
And even from a mindset perspective, I'm just thinking for someone who
I
might
feel
be
like getting attacked, like my mind is like, oh, can like that one? Like, it's very interesting.
You think too much.
So
Overthinking.
no. I'm not taking it personally. I'm just like, my mind is just opening. I'm like, oh, can like that.
But like for someone who has 4, like the usual human reaction might be, oh, 1 no more. I use that time to relax. But your approach is, I'm gonna find something else and fill up that 4. That's a very different level of thinking. Has it never crossed your mind to want to relax a bit more?
I feel like I get a bit uncomfortable, to be honest, with like let's say my work time being so free. I think like I like to take that time to contribute in different aspects. So for example, the 4th role I'm looking at doesn't need to like pay me a lot as well, right? So, I'll say that therefore it's more like a creative outlet or like somewhere that I can build certain skill sets. Like I feel that no matter at which level of work we are at, which level of career we are at, we constantly can do more things. And now I have more free time, right? Technically, I have another like 2-3 hours technically. Because based on my schedule, I can schedule another 2-3 hours of work every day, for example, right? So
instead of watching drama,
instead
or
of watching
book.
K-drama, going for a swim, let me do more work.
So I think there's some satisfaction that comes from the fact that my value in the market is there.
You know what? I think because you started too young, you're addicted to it.
That's
Since
true.
16 years old, you already
that's
started,
true.
so you don't know any other way of life. And I'm not saying it from a like this is right or wrong
Like
type of
I forced
situation.
myself to
Yeah, it's
take
just-
the
it's
poison
just
for
what-
years, right?
Yeah, it's just what you're used to. It's like how people that gym since young, right? They don't gym, it's like wow, the whole body is telling them you need to go, So it's just how
I
you-
need that. I need that.
That's a different discussion, right? But that is essentially how you built into it, right? And
Okay.
if you talk to a lot of other senior leaders, actually a lot of them are quite like that. You know,
Yes.
although they don't hold 4 or 5 jobs, but
Yep.
they one person essentially 4 or 5 departments,
Correct,
right?
right,
So
exactly.
they do think like that. It's very interesting.
And it start even earlier. So like I have a friend who works in a local bank who takes up very, very senior role. And he talks about how he wakes up at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
so that he can run a yoga practice stuff in
It's
the
true,
day.
it's true.
And then like after that at 10, or 9, you get to office. And then like work with the team.
Yeah, it's
And
correct.
it's very impressive.
But do you feel like on some level similar? Because to be fair, although you don't have 4 jobs, right? But your time is quite crazy. You got a mom job, right? You got your full-time job. You got the budget babe, right? And then you got this, right? And then it's like you're also doing a lot.
Technically overemployment,
Right,
actually.
technically you're overemployed, right?
But Reggie never pay me CPF.
Oh!
So doesn't feed the
Oh,
work.
Okay. So that's
Can
a
negotiate
parameter,
next
right?
round.
Yeah, that's how we can negotiate, right. So, but yeah. Don't you feel like you're also overemployed in that sense? I don't feel overemployed, lah. Right.
I mean, it's a different term though, because like what Stanley said, overemployment is you're contractually bound to a job. But mine's a bit different,
A bit more
If-
flexi.
Yeah, if you ask me to come, I say I don't want to come, then
Then
nothing you
yeah
can do,
lor,
right?
yeah.
If I don't want to work on my
Yeah,
article
very
for
hard
the
lah.
blog,
Don't say sorry, cannot. That's like, okay. Change day.
change it,
Yeah,
yeah. If I don't want to work on my blog, because I'm tied out on my kid was sick last year, so I had a period of time where I wasn't doing much. It's okay because I'm not contractually bound by anything. It's just like saying no to the money or the output at that point and then managing it differently. So I see it in a very different way.
Fair.
Yeah, I
You got
see
a point.
myself as one full-time job with side passions, side hustles / passions,
Like
and
gigs are different gigs.
yeah, gigs
Yeah.
and that,
Yes.
and my own will. When I have bandwidth, then I
You
do it.
do.
I mean, the mom thing is a bit different, and mom don't qualify as a job.
Yeah,
No
yeah,
CPF.
No CPF also. I'll time to
Some
negotiate.
more, some,
Yeah, so I think it's a bit different. That's why I struggle to
true, that's
embrace the concept of being contractually bound. Because contractually bound as an overemployment means you don't have the option to walk away if something pops up.
yeah.
But you can always resign.
Yeah lah.
There's a
Okay.
1 month notice, right? Or 2
Okay.
months notice are depending on the
Depending
level
on
of commitment.
okay, fair.
It's still, I'll say that no one can still hold you to a gunpoint or like, it's just that you cannot be like, today do, tomorrow don't do lah. I mean like you still, okay, so I guess that's, for me, the comfortable point now is that because I negotiated for full remote, post-COVID, right, for all my roles. So it gives me a level of flexibility. So in a way that I could bring my work wherever I go. So let's say if I for seconds, for example, I need to go Taiwan to do some work, right? To meet some clients or do some relationship work over there. I could actually bring all my work with me, technically.
fair.
But there's a caveat lah. So like local events in Singapore, I still
You just have to be here, right?
I still have to be here. So there are certain periods, like for example, right now on my own freelance, I did accept like a KOL campaign to do like to learn music. And for the next 6 weeks, I need to be attending class. So I will have to.
Also, you're the KOL. You
Yeah.
go learn the music, then you go on the
Yes.
show, and then like表演like that. And then everybody
Yes,
have a good
life is
laugh.
hard. I don't know why I signed up for that. Let's get
Oh
all
my
the way.
god, Stanley is nuts. Stanley is nuts. Okay.
Yeah, so if I'm committed to that period, then I will
So
not
that-
be like away lah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fast
so
I
how
can.
do you balance that then? Because all these will inevitably come up, right? And when
Yes.
you least expect it. So how do you manage the conflict of schedules in this case?
I think it's really communicating with your colleagues in that sense, or my colleagues are in that sense. So like let's say
And honestly, it does help when you are public about it, right? That means everyone already know what Stanley got 3 jobs or maybe got 4 coming, right?
correct.
So it's okay lah, right? Then if it's not a hard deadline,
Yeah.
they will not force you on
correct.
it, right?
So like it's all negotiation as well.
Yeah.
Like and it's always discussion whether do they really need me in this program.
yeah.
Like for example, let's say we are planning a podcast for a fast food franchise business. Cannot say which
McDonald's,
one.
I know
Cannot
which
say
one.
which one
So,
first.
okay.
But it's a podcast about franchising. Oh yeah.
Oh.
So and like if they have no other better person to take the key account, someone who can hold, someone who can deliver the program, then it's up to me, right? Okay, then I'll have to see my schedule. Can I free up time to manage this, right? So same thing. It goes for like every other commitment within the company itself. Let's say I want to meet a client. Do I really have to meet this client physically? Can I meet them online? And do I really have to meet this client? Can my colleagues meet them instead? Right? So all these things, but in a given slot that there's no conflict, I will gladly accept, right? So I'm always yes, I can do it, right? But if there's a conflict, I'll have to weigh which one actually requires priority, which one absolutely requires my presence to make this happen. If it doesn't require my presence to make it happen, empower your team. Oh, that's so a bit toxic, right? But in a way, it's I've built teams to be able to work without me as well.
Fair.
Just
Yeah,
that-
important.
Yeah.
Important. Yeah. I mean, like when I'm back in Singapore, I do all this recording. Then there'll be a lot of meetings I cannot go for, right? And then the guys just have to handle it. Over time, they get very good at it, right?
Yeah,
They're very
exactly.
comfortable
Empowerment
at it.
as well, and
Yeah.
trust as well. Trust. There's a bit of trust.
Yeah.
And let's talk about your wife, because I can imagine this kind of situation, the partner support is very important,
Yes.
right? So how was it like when you first told her about going into your second?
我要离婚. This
Okay.
is it.
Oh, we recently got married, so it's not.
So
not
she signed up post product. It's not like in the
Oh,
process.
so,
of
so she
Yeah.
accepted the overemployment Stanley
Yes.
lah, not
Okay,
the
okay.
before no
Correct.
over and then transit.
So I think for her, it's more like I have to make time for her, no matter how busy I am. That's very important. And of course, we stay together, right? I'm married already, right? So the good thing is I'll always be coming home, like unless I'm overseas for work, lah. That's a different thing.
We should
So
get
how much
her on
time
the
do
show
you
next time.
allocate to her?
So typically, if it's like a after work kind of situation, then I will try to have at least 2 to 3 days that we can have a meal together. Can be a form of like tastings. No, I mean, as a KOL-ish personnel, I do also go for a lot of food tastings and stuff, so I can bring her as my default plus one. So that's how we get to eat, review, and also do some things together, right? So that builds a bit of couple time.
So someone else pays for the date.
Yeah.
Win-win.
I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
And I put her as a writer so she can represent me without me being there.
Yeah.
Actually,
Okay.
so,
Okay.
yeah.
Fair. But then how do you heal? I mean, like, the grind is intense, right? And you do all this. I mean, okay, we bits and pieces
Yeah.
here and there, right? But what is your perspective of like downtime? What is your perspective of like how do
that's a great
you heal and all that? What's a professional ma, right?
So
So we
professional, right.
we talk about this after the set, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
how do you come back? Yes,
So
on
the
this?
healing part is really knowing yourself or knowing myself, like in a sense. I have this high energy persona, but when I'm like back at the 10 to 12 period, right? Maybe let's say I don't have strategy work to do, I would like to like read a book, go back to my shell, essentially. Read books that are maybe entirely not related to my line of work, maybe like fiction books, for example. So, and I am a big bookworm. I read like 100, 200 chapters a day. Those short novel kind. Yeah. So if I have the time, and maybe I do household chore as well. So things that I can do alone helps me to heal because I don't really need to talk to anyone, don't need to engage anyone, don't need to think about how segment my life. Right. So so I guess that's the healing portion. And I only recently discovered that this is really therapeutic for me when it comes to...
Yeah, because there's an iterative process to these things, right? You try a lot of different ways to like heal and recharge. And eventually you'll find like there are a few ways that are most efficient and effective for you, right? And when you're time bound, because last time people always try all these things and they tell me, oh, you should do this. I was like, okay, I get it, but I got a lot of time, right? So I don't really need an efficient way to recharge. You know what I mean?
Correct.
Right. But you know, as you have lesser and lesser time, got 2 kids, got this, got that, right?
Wow, yours is actually very
intense. I want to see when you have kids, do you still do this? Okay,
the big question would be, Stanley as a dad, is he still overemployed?
It's crazy.
Yeah, I think when I can imagine myself being a dad and like having to juggle one more role. Because it's essentially a full-time role as well.
It is. Wow.
So I think the difficult part will be then knowing how to segment my time to recharge further. So,
Cannot. Your child dictates your time. You can't segment your time. If today's sick, need to go doctor, you have to drop everything and go
that's
already.
true.
You see, this is the situation where you don't have kids, then everything is in your head, right?
Yeah.
And this is this is how things work.
That's one very big difference for
Yeah.
me when I became a mom because I could segment my time very well. So pre-kids, it was always go to work, knock off at 6, work on the block from 8 to 10 or sometimes 8 to
Very
11.
structured, right?
Yeah, and then like dates every 2 or 3 days, and then weekends is either go on a block or meet friends. It was very structured, right? It's all in my head. I get to dictate my schedule. I get to plan. I sit on my bed at night and I can say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to do this. But then once the kid comes out, sorry, whatever I planned, mommy, I got fever. Oh, okay, sorry, wait. Hey, sorry, I can't make it. Cancel everything. And when you cancel, you need to slot in another time. And you don't even know when the kid will recover. So that's the hard part of being a mom.
Yeah.
And the
transition.
rescheduling kind of affects everything.
It does, because rescheduling is another whole ball game, right? Because you don't just manage one person's schedule anymore, it's multiple people.
It's like 20 working days later.
Yeah, and I can't even like go overseas without like arranging stuff first in advance because I need to make sure someone's gonna like pick the kids or bring to the enrichment. Who's gonna take care?
Continuity plan.
Yeah, if the kid is sick, then who's gonna go to the hospital? Especially if both parents are traveling like we did recently. Who's the backup plan, right? Because they will need a family member. Wow, so many things to plan. I'm like, go on holiday more tiring than staying in Singapore.
I know. No, I think it's the reality of a lot of high performers, right? Or like high functioning individuals that are doing a lot of things. Whether is it 4 jobs or senior role or trying to pursue multiple aspects of success in life, right? Yeah, it's an endless struggle, It forever exists, and it's crazy.
But I can relate to what Stanley was also saying that need to fuel up. Otherwise, it's what we crave, right? Like I can choose not to write on the blog.
Stimulate a bit.
Most of the time, I do want to write. But I guess like that's the next question. Would you then ever it's all working for you now. You've come up with a system to make it work. But do you envision yourself continuing this, or you think next time you may go back to the one role thing?
Yeah, I think the answer is a yes and no. I would see myself reducing my scope that I do for the work that I'm committed to, maybe in the next 5 years. Or perhaps when kids come along and I need to restructure my life a little bit, I definitely could see myself dropping certain roles. But for now, I would say it's business as usual until that point happens kind of situation. Because like I said, resignation requires just 1 to 2 months notice, right? So technically, it's not like I'm bound forever. And I could always opt for paternity leave, for example, for early days.
Oh my god, you got 3 paternity leave like that.
The complex part is that actually. So taking leaves is a problem for employment. So I never thought of problem. Taking leaves is a problem. So like, let's say if I take leave from one company, do I take from all 3 companies?
Yeah.
Or do I take from just one company? And I struggled with that, honestly. Till now, I struggle with that. Like,
because you essentially have 3 sets of leaves, right?
Yeah, technically, if you have 3 jobs, then let's say if we go with, let's say, 16 days off a year, that's 16 times 3. Do you take 16 times 3?
No, but he has 16 days off job A, 16 days off job B.
Correct.
It does not mean that he has 48 days of
Yeah.
job.
I
Because
still take 16 throughout.
so in 16 days, he job off from A, that B and C still look for him, right?
Yeah,
so unless you take the 16 days across all 3 jobs at the same time.
Right.
Right.
So, I mean, for the last 3 months of last
I've
year.
never taken a leave. Thank you.
No,
Say
I think for every company.
At
Then
one
you had
go
to
lah.
align all of them together.
correct. Because if not, I don't really have a holiday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
lor.
Which is actually
Oh, I think our listeners get it lah, right? Yeah, it's very hard to not imagine that. So let's say you have 3 jobs, right? Of course you don't have a holiday, right? You better take leave and line it up. Yeah.
yeah. So I take for all 3. Unless it's a work trip. Work trip, then I take for the other 2. For example.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes
Okay,
sense.
okay. Fair.
Or like the other 3 lah in that sense.
Mm.
So it really depends on what is the like travel commitment. But it's only travel that's the big issue. Like, honestly,
Yeah.
everything else is kind of okay.
Yeah.
So-
What about CPF? Because some companies they contribute your CPF.
Yes.
Essentially, you become part of the quota,
Yes.
right? Part of the quota to hire foreigners, right?
Right.
So I don't know the size of your companies. Like, does it matter? Because from what I understand, if you own a second job, your quota becomes half.
I think
Right.
the good thing is that I'm not usually part of the essential quota.
Oh,
Okay. I mean, there's other team members that
they fix the
pick up
quota
that.
lah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
So smaller teams don't have this problem.
Yeah.
As you
CPF
grow.
got clawback. After, I think, was it 6,500 or something? There's a cap, right?
Mm.
So if you
How do you
contribute
But
differentiate?
it's
more.
per company cap.
Oh, so
Yes.
yours is 6 times 3.
Times 3, yes.
Why,
Lou
guys?
was
If you
talking about
want
it the
to
other day.
Yeah.
legally overcome this CPF limit, now you have the answer.
Correct,
Yeah,
exactly. I mean, I've always been talking to my wife about this. I was just saying, like, if each company contributes 6,500, I mean, the limit itself, right? I can essentially for 4 companies, which is my max right now. I feel like 4, it's hard. I mean, it's hard enough for now.
Oh, do you need to substantiate that?
Yes.
4, I think 4 is hard. It's like,
No,
hello,
because-
bro, 2 already very hard.
No,
Right?
because 2 years later, I will say 6 is okay, right?
No,
so 5 is okay.
no,
You never know,
no,
because
yeah.
humans either evolve or like we get comfortable. So either way.
Wow. Okay, we're going there.
Yeah.
Okay,
Wow.
but that is a CPF hack. Yes, it's true.
Yeah.
Lou was talking about it.
Correct.
Yeah. So okay,
Wow.
because you were saying that essentially when you have extra time, you try to fill the void.
Yes.
Right, with something else. right?
Correct. That's true.
Hey, why don't you try to embrace that void and go there to try to see, why you feel so uncertain?
I think it's not really that I'm not okay to fill this void. I can fill this void without the work as well. I can fill it with working on other things like reading a book or journaling or perhaps building a new episode or program for myself, which I'm in the middle of planning my own things as well for content segments. But I would say it's because I have 4 jobs, right? And then I moved on from a very, I mean, there's a personal ego and also a personal space is that since I'm working on 4 things and I could do it, like why would I let that 4th opportunity be wasted?
Isn't that a fallacy? But okay, anyway.
I mean,
yes.
it's a fallacy.
I let you substantiate your position.
Yeah. So I was thinking if I could find a meaningful work, but of course, it's not any company that I will go and join and do the 4th.
Of
It
course.
has to be work.
Stanley has no lack of work.
Work that you want to do
Yeah,
or
it's
will
work
help
that
you
I want to
grow,
do, which is why I'm okay with the magazine segment because they don't pay really well, but it's
something new for you.
It's not something new also, but it's like I can build new things from there.
Mm,
Like
mm.
I've always wanted to like develop this aspect even deeper because
Fair.
back then when I was right now I'm in Seconds Media, but back then about 3 years ago we used to own a Korean publication, kind of like digital publication. So I mean there's a lot of fun doing it, but just that it doesn't pay very well.
Yeah.
back then, right?
Magazines are hard,
Magazines are hard.
Yeah, it's a hard thing. It's a long discussion.
Yeah,
honestly.
but there are ways to make it profitable. I mean, business is business. So I can deconstruct their business and actually make it work for them. And when they work, I can use the excess profits that they can generate, right, to build things that
Bigger
are meaningful.
things.
Because they already have a huge creative team, right, that can develop these programs when there's bandwidth.
How many hours do you sleep?
About 4 to 5 hours a day. Yeah.
Wow.
And you don't feel like you're
You don't feel
burnt
tired,
out or
ah?
no
Are you
sleep
forever
there.
on caffeine?
I'm always on caffeine. Yeah,
Okay,
right.
okay.
But burnout, I would say that actually when I was working one job, I burned out more.
Yeah. There is a study on this, right? Essentially, if you change multiple roles, she keeps the mind a little bit more engaged. Yeah, so but 4 is different. 2 is one
very
thing.
engaged.
4 is
Four is
overly
everyday engaged.
It's a bit too much. Right, yeah.
But the good thing is that if you do task management, right, it actually doesn't feel like a lot. I mean, okay, because I don't see
and you
them
are
as
29 lah.
Hmm?
You are 29.
29,
I
yeah.
give you 5 more years.
Yeah,
Five
let's say 5 more years.
5 more years.
Wait, I
Yeah.
got another question.
Yeah.
Then where's the workout?
Yeah.
How do you squeeze in your health and fitness?
I am trying my best to fit in. To be honest, for the past 5 years, it has declined. So I used to go every morning, like kind of rigor, and then it became like during COVID, it became whenever possible go spin, kind of situation, right? Class bars, that spin influencers. Yes,
It's the spin group, the spin group.
yes.
Give me more.
And then after COVID ended, then I'm like, why should I go spin so often? I have a lot of priorities to settle, right? So now I recently signed up for a gym near my home. It's like 5 minutes walk, literally. So it's 24 hours. No rocket science to which gym is it? Okay, so and I would say that I go at least like twice a week.
Okay.
Yeah, and even when I'm in Taiwan, I could go as well. So I like during my recent work trip to Taiwan for about 7 days, I went once at least. Yeah.
Wow, guys. So if you feel like you have no time, take it from Stanley. He manages to work out, spend time with his partner, do 4 jobs, and still freelance and travel, and he doesn't complain about no time, okay?
I cannot. Just say it's crazy. It's crazy.
But friends get it hard though, friends. So like let's say
there's no such thing as friend. Friend have to join you at the workout. They can chit chat. Like,
or join at the food tasting.
So literally 20 business days later, or like 30 business days later. So I have a lot of friend groups that are like, do we need to book Stanley 2 months ahead? which is actually a true thing, because like recently I was like organizing housewarming because my home recently I got married. And then I only got time to start to think about housewarming, so I planned one shot, a couple of housewarmings, right? And it's like all 2 months ahead kind of situation that I thought that this is a good slot, get them all involved. And then the next session, I need to plan it 2 months later. Kind of situation. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Wow.
Crazy.
Okay, but remember, I think this has been a very entertaining episode. We've learned a lot. We've learned about new term overemployment. We've learned about, but I think what was more insightful was how you got there and how you negotiated with your bosses to get the blessings without necessitating a pay cut.
Correct.
Because that's the main takeaway. Not everyone might go for overemployment, but we may want to have some time off work for our own side hustles. Or for our kids maybe, and knowing how to negotiate that without accepting a drawback in pay is a skill. So I thought that was very insightful, and hopefully something that our readers and listeners can take back to act on. But before we wrap up, with all of that combined, last question is, would you recommend other people to do what you do?
That's a good last question.
If you find that there's a lot of joy in working on different things at one go, then the answer is yes. And especially if you are already working in multiple gigs, why not make them in multiple employment?
You heard it from Stanley. Thank you for joining us on Wise and Shine. We'll see you guys again next week. Bye!